Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's Gratitude Shift Wednesday. We're talking about one-sided healing this morning. One-sided healing this morning. Our theme for this week, we know is healing, but I have a question that I want to ask you. Who or what environment keeps pulling back old patterns for you? Right? Is it the relationship that keeps recycling the same patterns? Is it a family dynamic that truly hasn't changed? Is it the friendships that drain you more than your perception of being filled? Is it the workplace that still doesn't see your value? Because here's the truth, all right? You cannot stay in a space that keeps re-breaking what you are repairing. All right. You can't keep staying in spaces and places that keep breaking you when you are repairing or repaired. All right. And that's what we're going to talk about on today. It's Gratitude Shift Wednesday. And this week we're focusing on healing. All right. Yesterday we talked about how you can heal if you keep waiting. All right. If you keep waiting to be perfect, to deserve peace. And today, we're going to disrupt some things, right? We're talking about these interactions because here's what nobody tells you, or maybe somebody told you, and it just, you looked over it. Listen, you can't stay in spaces that keep re-breaking you, you know, especially once you're repaired. Now, I say that there is a season where we have to be willing to unplug, right? Unplug from the environments, unplug from the individuals, unplug from the circumstances and conditions so that we can fully, you know, know us, right? So there is a time where we have to start to work on us. And environments is just so important to in our interactions with others, our relationships. It's so important to how we function. How much capacity does a person have to hold space for you in your healing? How much does a person believe that healing is something that can actually exist, right? And we're interacting a lot of times with individuals that don't share our values, don't share our goals, and things like that. And that saying, like a birds of a feather flock together, is truly, um, you know, it truly is a good saying because it also matches just the dynamics, right? We have what's called mirror neurons. So, we end up what we see, we end up mimicking, right? If we're around individuals who not hopeful, who's not on the healing path, who doesn't see healing as a lifestyle, right? I'm just who I am, right? It can really make it challenging for you and really just create more resistance than the natural resistance that comes with this healing process. So, um, what if I told you that the reason that you keep going back to the same people who hurt you isn't because of love, right? It isn't because of loyalty. It's about redemption, right? Your nervous system is trying to rewrite the story. It's telling you that if I can get them to choose me this time, right, I'll finally feel worthy. If I can make them see my growth, I'll finally feel enough. If I can prove my value to them, I'll finally earn the love that they couldn't give, right? And so it's this kind of redemptive act of if I do this, then they'll do that. But here's what the nervous system doesn't understand, you guys. Healing doesn't mean getting them back. It means getting you back. And that is the thumbnail for today, right? Healing is not about getting them back, it's about getting you back. And a lot of us are working on ourselves and doing the work so that we can, get them back, right? So that we can go and get the individual back and prove to them that either we're worthy of love and all of those things. Okay. And sometimes getting you back means that it means that you have to walk away from people that you love. Okay. It means that you have to learn how to walk away from the situations that you love or the situations that you have become comfortable with. All right. Um, you can love, right? You can love individuals and still leave them, right? And still leave so that you can get what you need for your life. So today we're learning about one-sided healing. All right, one-sided healing when you're trying to heal in an environment that still is mirroring your pain. All right, and it's time to disrupt that pattern on today. So who is this lesson? Oh, so why am I doing this lesson? I'm doing this lesson because I've watched too many people trying to heal in the same spaces that actually broke them. All right. They think that, again, if they just set the right boundaries, that they'll respect them, if they communicated better, right? If they learned how to communicate how much they love and things like that, then the person would finally understand. And if they just healed enough, that this relationship would work. But healing isn't about fixing broken relationships, you guys. It's about protecting the healed space. And when I'm saying protecting the healed space, I want to be very clear that when I'm saying protection, it's not about putting a wall up. It's about being aware and self-aware and creating the boundaries, right, that needs to be created, and understanding your values and stepping into that, right? Stepping into and choosing you and not abandoning yourself for someone else. All right. So this lesson is about giving yourself permission to stop trying to bloom in soil that still holds the shame. All right. We cannot bloom in soil that's holding shame. So here's my disclaimer for the day. This lesson is for educational and informational purposes only. All right. It is not a form of therapy or medical advice. However, listening and participating, with that being said, listening and participating does not create a therapy client relationship between you and myself. All right. This lesson, however, will help you to understand why you keep returning to environments that often re-break you, often repattern you, right? Often make you feel like you have not had the growth that you know you have. All right. And also this lesson will hopefully give you the tools to create the boundaries that protect your healing. But we all know that awareness is only the first step. Real transformation actually happens, right, when you take action. If this lesson happens to bring up any kind of dis-ease, I'm so sorry. If this lesson, hold on one second. If this lesson brings up any type of dis-ease or anything like that, please, please, please seek some help, some medical advice, and some medical attention, right? So that you can ultimately get the help you need. Hold on one second. Oh, something's in my throat. So good morning. It is Gratitude Shift Wednesday. All right. No, and I want to welcome you back to Life Lessons. Life Lessons is a part of Project Life. Good morning, cousin Tiffany. Um, this Life Lessons is a part of Project Life. Project Life is where we turn awareness into alignment and we make healing habits, and we turn theory into practice. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Sheila Little. I am an emotional strategist and life and business coach. I say that I'm a business psychologist and an emotional strategist. All right. Let's inhale. Okay. I am worthy of healthy spaces. And let's exhale. I release what keeps re-breaking me. Okay. I release what keeps breaking me. So let's do our body scan on this morning. Okay. Getting present in our body. We've done what we're supposed to do this morning. I know that it's 10 o'clock, but I just need you to pause for 30 seconds and let's just do a quick scan of our body. Remember, a big part of this lesson is truly getting us back into relationship with our bodies. So scanning up our legs, imagining that sun over our head, scanning up our legs, feeling the warmth on our feet, coming up our legs, just grounding that space, breathing into our stomach where we hold a lot of tension. Okay, the tension that sometimes makes us feel unsafe or makes people feel unsafe. or make us feel unsafe around people. I guess I should say it like that. All right, feel it in our chest, just warming our hearts where we hold a lot of our emotions. All right, up our shoulders, down our arms, really activating our hands, up our necks, just kind of filling our bodies with this kindness and compassion on today. All right, our face, our brains, softening our ears and our eyes, all right, out the top of our heads and then pouring down over our largest organ and really just having some compassion for us today as we breathe in. I deserve relationships that honor my healing, okay? And I release as we exhale, I release what keeps holding me back. Drop a word in the chat. Let me know how you're feeling this morning. I'm feeling good on this morning. Um, my day kind of started a little late. I was with my little brother this morning. As you guys know, my mom had a stroke, and so each day, we go see her and things like that. And I was talking to some individuals this morning, and I just appreciate all of the support. And I often talk about my mom, and I would say like the kind of fragmented relationship that we had. She was a young mother. I think by the time of 19, she had 3 kids and things like that. But one thing that my mom has always done was, tell my brothers and I that we were all that we had, right? And so we would get into it or something and fight, and she would be like, you're all you have, right? And so what that created was definitely this, relationship where me and my brothers are one, right? And being a sister or being a female who has an ill mom, and I'm, oh, thank you, cousin. Being a female who has all brothers, right? I don't feel like I'm taking on this burden of my mom alone. Like, my brothers are so present. They come, they're at the hospital. My one brother is out of the country right now, but he's calling and checking in. And then we have our extended family that's giving us love and things like that. So I just appreciate all of that. So on this morning, I'm feeling so appreciative. I'm feeling so appreciative. Good morning, big little brother. How you doing this morning? Thank you so much, Tiffany. I appreciate that. All right. So who is this session for? Who is this session for? This lesson is for you if you keep explaining your growth to people who can't see it. This lesson is for you if you've re-entered old relationships out of nostalgic or that are misaligned. All right. If you settle for half love just to avoid starting over, if you think that you've healed enough, okay, toxic relationships become healthy when you think that you're just healed enough, and then these toxic relationships become what you deem as healthy, and then you're trying to bloom in soil that still holds shame. Listen, this is for you if you're healing, but you're doing it in the same place that broke you. All right. So my powerful quote for you today and offer to you today is, again, you cannot bloom in soil that still holds your shame. All right. So let's talk about it. We're talking about one-sided healing on this morning. One-sided healing when you're trying to heal in environments that still mirror your pain. This is relational imbalance, you guys. You're doing the work, you're going to therapy, you're setting the boundaries, you're journaling, you're meditating, you're processing your trauma, all right? You're growing and you're evolving, but you're doing it in relationships that hasn't changed, that doesn't respect your boundaries, that minimizes your pain, that punishes your growth, right? And you wonder why you keep feeling rebroken. You wonder why you're not growing at the rate that you feel like you should. But here's why: because you can't stay in spaces that keep rebreaking what you have repaired. Okay. All right. And so our focus today, is that this one-sided relationship. So yesterday we talked about conditional healing, right? This idea that I that the only way I can see myself as healed is if I'm 100% okay, right? That if I am perfect, okay? And how you can't heal if you keep waiting to be perfect to deserve the peace that actually comes with healing, the reconciliation that actually comes with healing. And so today we're going to go a little deeper. Good morning, Dale. How are you this morning? And so today we're going to go a little deeper because healing isn't just about internal work, you guys. It requires external content, all right? External context, all right? You can do all the inner work in the world, right? But if you're still in relationships that's gaslighting your reality, if you're in relationships that minimizes your boundaries, that triggers your trauma, right? And that mirrors your pain, you are not going to heal there, you guys. Healing requires healthy soil. All right. And so this is why it's so huge to get into communities that sees you, right? Working in with an objective individual like a therapist, finding new communities that reflect your becoming. All right. And a lot of us, we want everybody to come along with us, right? Like, I'm ready to heal, he should be ready to heal, or she should be ready to heal, and let's go to therapy together. But everybody is not where you're at in your journey. Remember, the nervous system is looking for redemption. So a lot of times we're thinking like, once I get better, then they'll get better. All right. And we keep exposing ourselves to these environments and these individuals that don't have that. They don't have that desire that you have. All right. So let me tell you about a client that I worked with. All right. She came into therapy and she was devastated. All right. She's like, Dr. Sheila, I have been in therapy now for 2 years. I've done all the work. I've healed my childhood traumas. I've unpacked so much. I've learned how to set boundaries, but I still feel broken. All right. And so we explored what that looks like for her in her feelings. And I came to ask her, so tell me about your current environment, like your current relationships. What do they look like? And she started to list them. She said, I have a partner who still dismisses my feelings. You know, I have family who still blame me for their dysfunction. I have friends who still have this way of making me feel small. And I had to pause and I looked at her and I said, listen, you're trying to bloom in soil that's still holding your shame. All right. And she looked confused when I said that. And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, you've done the inner work, right? Week by week, we're working on these things, but you're still in the same environment that actually created it or aggravated it. All right. And you can't heal in that environment, in those same spaces that hurt you. All right. And, with that reality, she became very emotional because what she realized is that she wasn't failing at healing, you guys. She was healing in an environment or in soil that wasn't really nurturing the growth, right? That wasn't really nurturing the growth. So we spent months, helping her to really understand healing requires context. Okay. You can love people and still leave them. All right. You can create boundaries. You can have your yes and no. And this is where I start talking about like this organic thing that happens. Because when we're in these environments that mirror our shame, or that the soil of it is our shame, we tend to go back into our old pattern. All right. Or, we exert so much energy to be this new individual. And so we start to kind of feel hopeless because we want that environment to change. And this is why it's so important to really allow individuals to hold on to your boundaries and really allow the the environment to do what it's naturally going to do. So if I stop feeding this person, right, with my attention, if I stop pondering in my mind, like, why would they say that? If I learn to accept this individual for who they are, right, and know that we're different and not try to change them, something has to shift. Something has to change. All right. So again, healing requires a context. You can love people and you can still leave them, right? Leave them right where they're at and accept them for who they are. Sometimes peace means distancing yourself. And I know that some of us feel like, okay, but I'm in this relationship. I can't leave. Okay, I understand that you probably can't leave the physical environment, but in some way, it will, you guys are going to come to an agreement that we have to part ways. But as long as you are continuing to try to try to heal everybody, it's just too much, right? It's just too much for you to do. All right. Silence can be your closure, right? You can stop responding. You can stop, you know, trying to convince a person that you're not this individual anymore. And when my client finally decided that these relationships were not healthy, all right, um, she left. All right. And she just didn't heal when she left, right? Eventually they started to dissolve. She started to thrive because again, the soil was not a soil that cultivated her growth at the rate that she was actually participating. I mean, we're in therapy every week. And like I said, it's kind of like a lot of times I feel like when I'm working with my clients, especially in the beginning, like they learn new insight and then they try to go take it home and feed, right? And feed their loved ones. Like, hey, you need to hear this, or hey, I got this good thing, because we want them to change, because somewhere in us we feel like, well, if they only knew, then our relationship would be better. And the truth of the matter is, well, if you knew, right, if you knew what was good for you, if you knew your values, then your relationship would be different. All right. And sometimes the different relationship is what's better for you in that individual. All right. So let's pause and go into our mirror moment. All right. So what's one thought, emotion, or belief that that surfaces for you around this topic? All right. This topic of one-sided healing. All right. Um, Thank you, Tiffany. Tiffany said, very good message. Very good message. All right. So here's 5 truths that I want to tell you about this healing. Here's 5 truths that your interactions want you to know. Truth number 1, that you keep seeking, or you're seeking redemption from the same people that wounded you. And they ain't changed. All right. So your nervous system again wants to change the dynamic, to in some way make this situation last, because it's all it knows, right? And so even though you're uncomfortable, it wants it to be safe. So it's telling you that if if you get them to choose you, then then the relationship will finally feel worthy and you'll finally feel worthy. The chatter in your mind is saying that if they finally, if they finally understood how important you are, in the sense that it will be enough and you will be enough, okay? But here's what the nervous system doesn't truly know, right? It doesn't know that um, you're trying to get validation from people who don't have it to give. All right. All right. That there is an inability to choose you, that they have their inability to choose you was never about your worth. It was about their capacity. Okay. And when you can realize that, hey, this person's capacity, they just don't have the level of patience, they don't have the level of love, they don't have the level of information, they don't have the level of whatever that is, all right, to even give to me, right? But I am evaluating myself from an individual who doesn't have the ability to even choose, to even have the things that I need, all right? And that's not healing, you guys. That is re-traumatization, right? You're re-traumatizing yourself every time you go back, okay? Truth number 2 that your interactions want you to know is that healing doesn't mean getting back. It doesn't mean getting them back. It means getting you back. Listen, you think that healing means that they'll finally apologize, that they'll finally change, that they'll finally choose you, that the relationship will finally work, but that's not healing. That's redemption. All right. Real healing means that you stop needing their validation. Real healing means that you stop waiting for their apology. Real healing means that you stop sacrificing your peace for their comfort. All right. And you get, and real healing is that you learn how to get yourself back. And that's ultimately the goal. All right. Truth number three that your interactions want you to know is that you can't heal in environments that still mirror your pain. If you're in relationships that again gaslight your reality, say stuff like you're too sensitive, minimize your boundaries, like you're being so dramatic, right? Punishing your growth, oh, you've changed, right? In some way, you've changed, or you think you better now because you're going to therapy, right? In some way, trying to punish you for wanting more and growing more, and then mirroring your trauma, right? This is the same person but a different pattern, right? Or they're trying to remind you of the old you. Listen, you're not going to heal there, and if you do, it's going to be very slow, right? And it's going to be very painful, right? And I'm saying not physically painful, but a lot of dis-ease, because healing requires context, you guys. You can do all the inner work in the world, but if your external environment keeps triggering your wounds, you're going to stay stuck. All right. Healing requires uh, flourishing. Healing sustainably requires healthy soil. All right. So we have to be in healthy environments. And over and over again, I really have to let people understand how important your environment is. And some of us have just become so mute and so numb to our environment. It's just like this is just the way it is. And we feel like we can't change. We feel like we can't change. All right. Truth number four that I want you to know is that sometimes peace means walking away quietly and letting your silence be closure. A lot of us think that a conversation, an apology, an explanation, closure is what we need. But what if closure is actually just choosing you? What if that's closure? What if peace isn't about them understanding your why, understanding you, but what if peace is about you leaving? All right. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your peace. And again, when I'm saying protecting your peace, it's not this rigid boundary. It is understanding and becoming self-aware of who you are and putting in the boundaries right in place, and holding yourself accountable to that. All right. So sometimes silence can be your closure. I don't have to respond to that. All right. I don't have to respond to that. And then the last truth in this mirror moment is you can love someone and still leave them. All right. You can love someone and still leave them. This is a hard truth for some people because a lot of us think that if I really love them, I'm going to stay. And like I talk about this loyalty that we have to people, places, and things. All right. And we end up self-abandoning ourselves because we're loyal to something that we agreed to 20 years ago, 5 years ago, up into yesterday. Okay. And we don't give our chance, ourselves an opportunity to grow because, we don't want to feel their rejection when we choose something different. But love doesn't require you to stay in pain, you guys. Although when we open ourselves up to love, there is a duality that, because people are not perfect, we're going to be hurt and things like that. But love does not require pain. You can love someone and still love, and still leave. You can honor what they were to you. You can acknowledge the love that you guys shared, right? And then wish them well, all right? From a distance, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, and otherwise, all right? Because love isn't about loyalty. It isn't about having loyalty to any type of dysfunction. It's about being loyal to your healing process. And again, because healing is a lifestyle, okay, loyalty is about taking yourself into consideration so that you can be better for those around you. Okay. All right. So let me break this down. So here's a fact. A lot of us are wrestling with relational imbalance, trying to heal in environments that still mirror our pain. What this means is that you're doing the internal work, you're doing the therapy and the boundaries, and you're watching life lessons, and you're listening to podcasts, and you're processing and digesting, but you're still in environments that keep triggering these old wounds. All right. This means that, or this shows you that when that happens, it shows you that you keep explaining or keep having to explain your growth to people who can't see it, you guys, and sometimes don't even want to see it. So when you re-enter into these old relationships out of this dreamy space, or this hopefulness, right? Or this fear of being rejection, that is not at all alignment. When you settle for half love just to avoid, starting over, you're abandoning yourself. All right, in the name of love, in the name of loyalty, and that is not love. All right. All right. Why this matters, listen, if you keep trying to heal in toxic environments, you actually stay stuck. All right. You think that you're failing at healing, or you think that you're not getting better. But the reality is that you're healing in a wrong environment. You're planting in the wrong soil. All right. The seed is very functional. It's like trying to plant, a tomato seed in sand. The sand does not have the nutrients to grow the tomato seed. All right. And then you're like, why? I'm watering it. I'm doing everything to it. Why is my tomato seed not growing? Well, it's not growing because it's in the wrong soil. All right. And we have to be courageous. We talk about courageousness, but you have to be courageous enough to to move and plant yourself in different soil. All right. And courage is having that uncertainty, moving without knowing, right? Doing the thing that I cannot control the outcome. And that is the scary part of it. A lot of us are staying in these environments because it's what we know. I know that, I know that this person is not probably going to listen to me, but I'm hoping that this time they will. But there's some safety in the certainty of knowing that they may reject me. All right. The courageous thing to do is to step out, right? To dig up that seed and plant it somewhere else in a different environment, a different relationship. But the uncertainty of that is like, well, what is that going to look like? And some of us will say stuff like, well, I'm I already know what's going to happen here, or I don't want to go through what I went through with another person. You know what I mean? And we will give ourselves excuses to truly stay like in this environment, while all along we're feeling that, right? We are feeling that abandonment within ourselves, right? And again, the courageous thing to do would be to just to leave. All right. And I say leave emotionally, physically, spiritually, or otherwise, right? To stop feeding that part of the relationship and let life do what it's going to do. Um, why do I call that courageous? Because you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. All right. But you're doing it anyway. I had a client who said that I thought I was failing because I kept feeling triggered by my family. But when I finally created distance, everything started to shift. I wasn't failing. I was trying to heal in a space, right, that wasn't promoting my growth. I was trying to heal in the sense of, and I'm saying this softly, in toxic soil. All right. Listen, studies show that environmental context is a critical factor in our healing. Trauma survivors who remain in the same triggering environments, even when they're in therapy, show slower recovery rates than those who create physical or emotional distance. All right, listen, your nervous system cannot fully reset when the environment still signals danger. All right. And I'm going to ask you this. You want relationships that support your healing, not relationships that's re-breaking um, who or what you have already repaired, don't you? All right. Where you don't have to keep explaining why you're growing or why you need this, or defending your boundaries, where your peace, all right, and your growth is prioritized. Okay, it's not a sacrifice. And I want to remind you that's what you deserve. All right, this is what you deserve. You know, um, just a personal testimony. When I left my relationship, it was similar to that, right? Like I had these big dreams, I had these big goals, I had these desires, I needed to grow, I wanted to do all of these things. And I would often try to take in that first phase of my growth, I wanted to take everything I learned and bring it back home, right? And talk about it. And oh, would you talk to him about this? And all of that, and really working hard to try to get on the same page. But what I realized is that healing was my journey. See, I had come from abandonment. I had come from rejection. I had came from a scarce environment. I had came from physical, mental, emotional, and sexual abuse, right? And so healing for me was a priority, all right? And I so happen to have what's called post-traumatic growth. So on the outside, I'm looking like, oh, you're so smart, you're so accomplished, right? Not realizing that the post-traumatic growth was the thing that was moving me to be better, to do better, to want more. But it was still this wounded individual in me. And I was seeking validation from my relationships, from the people around me. And when I chose to unplug and just make it like, hey, similar to that airline, like, you got to put the oxygen on you before you try to put it on someone else. All right, you got to put it on you. And when I did that, I slowly started to disconnect myself. you know it's okay for me to have a boundary. It's okay for them to be mad about my boundary. It's okay for me to you know not have a response to that. It's okay for me to accept these individuals for who they are. That's just who they are. Why are you trying to change them? And when I learned how to accept people for who they were in their line of sight, whether it was different from mine, then it was like this natural progression, and certainty came. Certainty that that wasn't a relationship that I wanted to be in, certainty about what type of relationship I wanted to be in, right? But that came towards the end, right? But in the middle of the mess, it's just like, well, maybe you can go and tell them this, or maybe now they'll get it, you know, or you have your degree now, maybe they'll see this, or maybe they'll see that. And at the end of the day, the seeing part was the only truth, but it wasn't about them seeing me. It was about me learning to see me, right? It wasn't about them healing. It was about my healing, all right? It wasn't about them respecting my boundaries. It was about me respecting my boundaries. All right. And what I realized is that it was okay. It was okay to walk away. It's okay to go silence. You don't have to try to convince anybody of nothing. All right. It's like, okay. All right. I hear you. Is that all? And not even in like a dismissive place. It's just like, I just don't have it to give. Right. I know that I don't need to respond to that. And that is the healing process that happens every day, because sometimes, right? Sometimes, and that's why I say detaching yourself emotionally, physically, spiritually, or otherwise, because some people in our life, and I know we got this cutoff game, and again, this is not a conversation about cutoff game. This is about a conversation about boundaries. All right. And stop trying to throw your pearls to swine. Stop trying to convince your mama, stop trying to convince your daddy, stop trying to convince your husband, stop trying to convince people, all right, that you are worthy and that you are enough. And stop allowing that to be your motivation for your healing, because once they see that you can communicate, or once they see you working, then they're going to love you. Some people just have their capacity. And no matter how much you heal, no matter how much you grow, no matter how much you do, they gonna be them. And what you're doing is you're re-traumatizing yourself by having and holding on to those hopes. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat for me. All right. So this ain't about going and cutting everybody off. This is about prioritizing you. All right. So we're talking about interactions today, and this lesson is about, because healing happens. It doesn't happen in isolation, you guys. It happens in our relationship, and that's why in that life process, when I talk about our love of self, I think we do so much work on ourselves, right? And then we have to interact with people, and these people become a mirror, right, for us. And so when they don't do what they're supposed to do, then what we will do is we will be like, oh, well, it must be me. I must need to go and get more therapy. I must need to, go read more books. I must need to, do something to change. And, or we would just isolate ourselves. Research shows that we are the most loneliest community or loneliest generation, right? We're on our phones, we're interacting on social media, we're liking people's posts, but on the inside, we feel lonely. All right. And then a lot of us are justifying our loneliness, because everybody is a red flag, because people don't value what you value, because people, tend to hurt your feelings and things like that. And so we've become so sensitive. But your relationships, healing doesn't happen in isolation. You're only going to heal so much. Listen, when you break your leg, all right, you can set that leg up and not feel any pain. You're not going to feel the pain or how much this leg has healed until you put pressure on it. And so the people and the relationships that we are in, that's the pressure. And it's pressing on areas of us, right, to be a mirror for where we need to understand more of our value, where we need to strengthen, right, where we need to create more boundary or honor more of our boundaries, right, where we need to learn how to communicate more. That's what relationships do. They reflect that back to us, okay? But but here's what people don't understand. Again, healing doesn't happen in isolation, it happens in relationships. But here's what a lot of us don't understand: not all relationships are there to support your healing. You know, some of our relationships actually uh, actively blocks it. Some of our relationship actually is there to stop our healing process. All right. So here's 10 truths that, about relationships between healing and about the relationship, about healing in our relationships. All right. Healing requires safe soil, and not all relationships provide that. And that's just the truth. Not all relationships are going to be a safe soil. You may want that. You may want this person to be that for you, but they just don't have it. Okay. You cannot bloom in soil that holds shame, that holds resentment, that doesn't match your capacity. Some relationships are fertilizer and they fertilize you, but some relationships can be perceived as poison, especially for what you need. And it's your job to know the difference. It's your job to know the difference. All right. We don't have to judge those people. We don't have to make them bad, but it's our job to be aware of, okay, I see their mindset. I see where they're at, you know, boundary created. Okay, we're not going to have this conversation. Why can't we have this conversation? What, you too good to have this conversation? Whatever you think, right? But I'm just not going to talk about that anymore, right? And now it's time for you to start honoring the boundary. Okay. Number two, I want you to know that your nervous system is seeking redemption from unsafe people. All my life, right? I wanted to prove the people who hurt me, prove to the people who hurt me that I wasn't a person that you should have hurt. See, I was the good daughter, right? So I should have been the child that you wanted to keep. I'm a good friend. So I should have been the friend that you wanted to be around. I'm a great family member. So I should be the family that you value, right? Listen, that don't work. All right. That don't work. But your nervous system is going to try to convince you to redeem these unsafe people. This is why uh, your growth keeps getting blocked, because the brain think, if I can only get them to choose me this time, if I only can show up shiny enough to get them to see me this time. But again, redemption from them isn't truly healing. All right? It's not. And I know that we feel that way, that we have chosen people in our life that if I can be in relationship with them or if I can get them to love me, then I've overcome. And that's not it. It's about getting yourself back. It's about reclaiming you. It's about creating boundaries and understanding your values for you. All right. Number three, you're not required to heal in the presence of people who hurt you. All right. You're not required to do that. Some of us think that you have to work it out with everyone. All right. But some relationships aren't meant to be healed. They were there for a lesson. They were there for a season. They were there for a mirror to show you what you still needed to heal. Not between you and that individual, but for you. All right. And when you learn that, it's okay to release that individual because they may never get it. All right. And we're spending time and time again. They say you can take a horse to the water, but you can't make them drink. And we're just trying to push their head in the water, like, drink the water, drink the water. Like, no, they wasn't meant for them to drink the water. What they came into your life to show you is that this is an area that you still need to heal. All right. You still need to find some alignment here. And that's okay. Okay, and we can release them and keep the lesson. All right, number four, distance is not punishment. A lot of times, distance is your protection. All right, a lot of times we've learned that you know that in a sense I'm gonna punish you and I'm gonna block you. I'm punishing you, so I'm going to cut you off, and I'm doing it to prove to you how valuable I am. And I'm going to cut you off because I need to prove to you that you lost a good one. All right. Listen, you're not leaving to hurt them. All right. To prove to them anything. All right. You're leaving to protect yourself. All right. All right. And that is not cruelty. That is what we call self-preservation. Anybody who know me, I put myself in timeout. Listen, man. Well, why didn't you always in timeout? You put yourself. Yes, I do. I have to. Right? I'm just gonna disconnect, reset, right? I had to kind of put myself in timeout because I didn't want to disrespect myself in front of you. And I say, like, I didn't want to disrespect myself in front of you. Well, what do you mean when you say that? Because I'm about to call you something, and then I got to hear myself call you something, right? That you don't deserve to hear, and I don't deserve to hear. So let me go and put myself in timeout. You know, I be having my little shenanigans. But it's important, right? And so we have to get out this mindset of cutting people off to prove to them something and more have an intention of what our value, our worth, our boundaries, and our capacity, right? And so now, I am actually leaving not to punish you, but to preserve me, to preserve my sanity, to preserve, myself, to not abandon me. Okay. And that's not cruel. Choosing me is never going to be cruel. All right. Now, would that hurt some people? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's either about hurting them or hurting you. And in the beginning of your healing process, yeah, it's hurtful. It's hurtful. Okay. Number five, you can love someone and still know that they're not safe for you. All right. So love doesn't make someone safe. Capacity does. All right. Emotional maturity does. Self awareness does. So you can love them from a distance. Number six, nostalgia is not alignment, you guys. Just because you have a history doesn't mean you have a healthy future. So stop romanticizing, all right? Romanticizing what was toxic just because it was familiar, all right? Just because it was familiar. A couple of more things. Half love will always feel like rejection because it is, all right? If you're settling for breadcrumbs, you're rejecting yourself. Um, so if you're settling for breadcrumbs and you're rejecting yourself, that is not a part of the healing process. So stop accepting half love to avoid starting over. And a lot of us are doing that. Like, oh, I'm just going to accept these breadcrumbs because, if I meet somebody else, I may get the same thing. And I heard a person say, "This the monster I know." You know what I mean? So many monsters out there. And just that statement in itself is like, so you're expecting monsters, right? You're not expecting healthy people. You actually expecting monsters. All right. Listen, you deserve to be fully loved, okay? Or just not loved at all, especially in our relationships. All right. And a part of that is learning how to love you. All right. Number 8, people who can't celebrate your growth can't stay. People who can't celebrate your growth, it's often hard for them to stay a part of your healing process. If your growth threatens them, right? They're not your people. And I'm not saying that in this, judgment away, but remember, the nervous system likes what's safe, and you have already taught people how to treat you, right? From your wounded person. All right. So your wounded person has taught them to treat you like a wounded person. So you go get help, right? And now you're a wise person. But they learned how to interact with the wounded you. And now the wise person is a threat to that dynamic. All right. It's a threat to that dynamic. So a lot of times they won't celebrate your growth, right? Because it's a threat. It's a threat to what you guys currently have. All right. And so that's not about you. That's just about their nervous system now going into fight, fight, freeze, or fawn because you have changed and you have permission to change and grow. Number 9, closure doesn't come from others; it comes from you. So a lot of us are waiting for them to release you, but you have to release yourself. At some point, you just have to say, "I'm over it. I release me." All right. Your decision to leave is your closure. It is your choice. All right. And then last but not least, silence is a complete sentence. I'm going to say that to the people in the back room. Listen, silence is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your peace, you guys. You don't owe anyone an explanation. And here's the thing, they don't owe you one. You know, a lot of times, you know, people in their healing journey has chose to silence you and you just feel like, well, I just feel like they owe me. They didn't respond back. Well, okay, nobody owes you and you don't owe them. Just take the data that you have and move forward. But a lot of us we just want to know. And it's like, no, you don't owe an explanation for protecting your peace, and other people don't owe you an explanation for protecting theirs. Walking away is valid. It's a full sentence. Letting silence be your closure or allowing people to allow silence to be their closure, we have to learn to let that be enough. All right. You don't have to defend your healing, and other people don't have to defend theirs. But a lot of us just feel like, we want to control how people heal, how they respond to us. And then we want to control how we do it. We're so trying to control people. How dare them not call me back or text me? How dare them? Well, if that's going to get them peace and that's what they feel like they need to do, how can we find a space to respect that? And then what they've just communicated to you, all right, how can you move forward with that? Maybe they're no longer, maybe they're at capacity. Maybe they got something going on in their life. How can we honor that space, move forward? Now, it may feel hurtful. I'm not saying it don't hurt. It does. All right. But you going to be okay. At this grown age of adult, you going to be okay. All right. One day at a time. All right. All right. If that makes sense, put a heart in the chat for me as we go into our biblical wisdom on this morning. We got 1 Corinthians 15:33. Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. Say that again. Bad company corrupts good character. Listen, the interpretation of this is bad company corrupts good character. Notice it says corrupt. It does not say influence. It does not say challenges. It says corrupt. All right, listen, the God in you, your higher self, the divinity, that divine wisdom knows that the people you surround yourself with either support your healing or they're there to sabotage it. Okay. This is not about judgment, you guys. It's about discernment. And some people are not bad company. They just are not safe for your healing process. All right. They were there in your season, in one season of your life, and they fit good. But in this next season, they not supposed to come with you. So that don't mean that they're bad people. All right. Some people are not bad. They're just not good or safe for your healing. All right. And staying in unsafe relationships, it doesn't make you more loyal. It doesn't make you more worthy. It doesn't. It make you stuck. It make you stuck, all right? And neuroscience supports this. When your relationships trigger your trauma, your brain's amygdala, which is a thought detector, it stays activated, you guys, and this keeps you in hypervigilance, constantly scanning environments for danger, even when you're safe. And a lot of people are so hypervigilant, they're looking for the other shoe to drop. They're scanning for the red flag. They're they don't they don't want to experience joy. When you're hypervigilant, having good things happen to you is like an invitation for the bad thing to happen, because I just know something bad gonna happen, because you know too many good things can't happen. All right. But when you create distance from triggering relationships, you give your brain's prefrontal cortex, which is your wise brain, you give it space that it can actually fully come online. All right. And when that happens, this allows for your nervous system to shift from threat mode, which is a sympathetic nervous system, to safety mode, which is your ventral vagal nervous system. And you literally, I want you to know, cannot heal in environments that keep your nervous system in survival mode. And I keep telling you guys, y'all trying to manifest this life, and y'all journaling, and y'all doing your affirmations, but you are hyper vigilant. You're scanning for it, and your focus and your attention is on what is going to go wrong. You're in survival mode. You're looking to feel safe. All right. You don't want to socially connect. And that is preventing all of that work that you're doing from you experiencing it, because your nervous system is like, that is unsafe. And so the healing, the work that needs to be done is truly switching your nervous system from sympathetic to parasympathetic, from threat mode to safety mode. All right. So in modern terms, what this means is that the people you keep close either support your healing or they're sabotaging it. All right. And if you're trying to heal in relationships that keep triggering your trauma, all right, that's an invitation. That's an invitation for you to say, hey, I need a new environment. Listen, because you're not failing in your healing. All right. You're healing in an environment that's not conducive to that growth. So sometimes protecting your peace means creating distance, right? Emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, or otherwise. All right. From the people that you actually love. All right. That you have come to love, so that you can become the person that God created you to be. At least have a space to experience that person just a little bit. And hopefully, when you experience that person, you get a taste of that. And then from that taste, you want to make that a part of your daily appetite. And so you start to rearrange your relationships, and you start to seek people who feed you and that support you. All right. All right. That makes sense. Put a heart in the chat for me. Our promise verse for today: come out from them and be separate, says the Lord. Touch no unclean thing, and I will receive you. This is 2 Corinthians 6 and 17. Listen, come out from them and be separate. Notice it said come out. It didn't say change them. It didn't say fix them. It said come out, right? So the God within you is calling you to separate yourself from what is what? Toxic. All right. From what is what? Not in alignment with you, not in alignment with your life, not because you're better than anybody, but because you're committed to your healing. And being committed to your healing, you have to separate yourself. And healing requires boundaries, it requires understanding and self awareness. All right. And so sometimes separation is the most loving thing that you can do for the both of you. All right. And neuroscience supports this. When you create healthy boundaries, physically and physical or emotional distance, your brain's vagus nervous system, it activates. All right. This nerve connects your brain with your heart, your lungs, and your digestive system. And it's responsible for the rest and digest mode. All right. But when you are in constant conflict or in one-sided relationships, your vagus nervous system it stays dysregulated. All right. Separation literally allows your nervous system to what? To regulate. And then when we get into relationships with other people, that are healthy and aligned, then we start talking about co regulation. All right. So when we're triggered and we get big, right, that person is healthy enough to not match us. And so that person will, you're triggered and you may say something loud, and then they're not gonna be offended because they know you. They know your heart. They know who you are. So they're going to be like, is everything okay? They're going to respond in a calmer tone. Hey, talk to me about that. Hey, what's going on? So they're going to co regulate you back, right? Because they're holding the space for your growth. All right. And if you're not in a relationship where there's this co-regulation factor, that when you in some way are triggered or you step out of alignment or you get big or you get angry, and now the relationship, that other individual is like, what are you talking about? And then they get big, and then you get big, and then you get big, and then they get big, right? Now this is just like a whole big storm. All right. So you want to be around people who are healthy and safe and that can hold a space for you. So when you become dysregulated and you may get angry or upset or something like that, this person understands, like, oh, you're hurting. Oh, you're upset. Not with me, but let's talk about it. Is everything okay? Right? They're keeping a calm tone, which then activates your brain, right? To say, oh, this is safe. Let me calm down. And then you like, yeah, everything's fine. I'm just so frustrated. And then you start to cry, right? And then there's a conversation that happens. And this is what we call co-regulation. But this verse is about separation, right? And separation helping you to regulate yourself. And then we interact with people, and then those people help to what? To co-regulate us. All right. What this means is that sometimes the most loving thing that you can do is leave. Not because you hate them, but because you're committed to your healing. And healing requires context. So come out, separate, and protect your peace. That's not abandoning you guys. That's not abandoning them. That's not abandoning you. That is called alignment. All right. And when you are misaligned, or what I call this limits condition, where you're lacking the energy, the motivation, the organizational skills, necessary supports, and skill sets, right? You're suffering from a huge misalignment in your life, and you're suffering from what I call this limits condition. And we have to learn how to make lemonade with our lemons. And sometimes making that lemonade is separating ourselves. All right. And getting a new environment. So my question for you is how do you how does this verse reshape how you see your relationships? All right. How does this verse do that? All right. And then here's our integration for today. I want you to write this sentence down. I can love them and still leave. All right. Number two, list the boundaries. List the boundaries that protect your peace this season. And then identify one relationship or environment that keeps pulling you back into the old pattern. All right. And then your journal prompt for today: who or what environment keeps pulling you back into your old pain? And then here's your one sided healing audit of the relationship and environment that keeps re-breaking me is what? I keep going back because of what? The boundary I need to protect my healing is what? And if I love myself more than I love them, I would what? Listen, if you're having struggle, if you struggle with answering those questions, make sure you join the project at SheilaLittle.com/life, where you can get the support that you need uh, and help you to become more aligned. Your affirmation for today is I can love them and still leave. Your intention statement is today I choose healing over loyalty and dysfunction. And for the next 24 hours, here is your bonus challenge. Every time you feel pulled into a toxic, or I'm saying that softly, toxic relationship, ask yourself, am I seeking redemption, or am I protecting my healing? All right. If the question is redemption, I want you to pause. If the question is healing, honor your boundary. All right. Honor your boundary. Here's that call, that challenge, and that charge for you. I'm calling, I'm asking, what truth are you walking away with today? The challenge is right. I can love them and leave them. Then list those boundaries to protect yourself. And then your charge, you already know, is to go shape your life. Not by staying with what you can tolerate, but by going after what, not by staying where you're tolerated, but by going where you're celebrated, you guys. All right. Here are some closing reminders I want you to know. Again, you cannot stay in spaces that keeps re-breaking what you have or are repairing. All right. You can love them and you can still leave. Okay. You can honor that. I mean, you can honor what was and still walk away. Okay, you can wish them well and still protect your peace. Because healing does not mean getting them back. It means getting you back. Tomorrow is Energy Audit Thursday. We're gonna have a 2 for 1 on tomorrow. We're gonna do focus in energy. This weekend, my brother dad passed away, so we'll be going to his funeral on Friday, so I won't be available. So we'll be having that conversation, wrapping up the healing series. I hope you guys enjoy talking about healing, and then next week we'll kick off talking about truth, which will wrap up this Weight We Carry series. I hope that the Weight We Carry series has definitely been eye opening for you. If you know anybody that can benefit from this series, make sure that you invite them to the Elevate in Life Facebook group. And then do me a favor, go to my YouTube page at I Am Shaping Solutions and make sure you subscribe, okay, so that you can get the notifications or that you can just come back and watch those. And if you need any support, again, make sure you join the project. It's very affordable. In these times, I do feel like we do need some support. We need a community, and this is an investment in you creating a community for yourself as you grow and heal, especially during these critical times. All right. Again, I want you to know you can't bloom in soil that holds your shame. So tonight, I want you to say out loud, I can love them and still leave. I can love them and still leave, because healing requires healthy soil, you guys, and healthy environments. And you deserve to bloom. You deserve to bloom. So remember this, if you can shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life. And if this session resonated with you and you walked away with some insight today, make sure you drop a fire in the chat. All right. Share this message with a friend or family. All right. And let's celebrate our growth together. Listen, I love you. I love you. I love you. And I will see you tomorrow for that life lesson. Till later.